Hi, folks. I'm Abel James, and welcome to the award-winning Fat Burning Man Show, where we talk about real food and real results. Before we get to the show, I want to share some interesting information that's on the serious side and could be pretty relevant to some of you who are out there listening and watching. Science is now telling us that exercise is a better healing therapy for depression than medication. Several studies were published within the last couple of years, clearly showing that regular aerobic exercise has the same results as Zoloft, and that patients who kept exercising regularly long-term felt better a year later than the ones taking meds. Being someone who's been prescribed antidepressant medication by my doctor to help me sleep in the past, I can tell you that I'm a heck of a lot happier when I'm exercising than when I'm just medicating. And I think that most of us kind of have that experience. I do believe that just about every ailment that we have out there can be cured or reversed with little hacks and adjustments and tweaks to diet and exercise, because both of those things directly change your physiology, the way that your body works, the way that your brain works. And so it's really important to kind of try out those natural methods first before you start popping a whole bunch of pills, especially if you're taking more than just one at the same time. They can have kind of unpredictable effects within your body, and I'm going to be talking about that a lot more in my new book, and that's kind of why I'm going on a tangent right now. But anyway, why don't we really talk about depression more? What can we do about it? The reason that a lot of these natural cures don't really get out there is because there isn't a whole lot of money in telling people to go for a walk, right? To help them with their depression. There's a whole lot of money in patents and trademarks and branding and getting products out there that people can consume over and over again. But you know, if you just go for a walk, there isn't really anyone else who's benefiting directly from that, certainly not monetarily, except for you. So lace up those old tennis shoes and get those endorphins flowing, because exercise isn't about how you look, it's about how you feel. And I can definitely attest to that. All right, now on to this week's show with Amy Clover, founder of Strong Inside Out. Now we're going to be talking about a topic that's a little bit tough for some of us, and it might stretch our comfort zone a little bit too, but that's all right, because we need to. That's how you grow. We're going to be talking a lot about suicide prevention, depression, anxiety, and some really serious issues that, whether they've affected you personally or not, there's a good chance that they've probably affected someone around you or will in the next few weeks and months and years ahead. So this show is a really important one to listen to, and I think Amy has a lot of personal experience and insight to share with you guys, and I'm excited to bring her message to you. So if you know someone who might be struggling with slaying their own demons, and you think this information might be able to help them, then please spread the word, whether you just mention Fat Burning Man and they can look it up on the website, fatburningman.com, or on iTunes or YouTube or what have you. Tell them over the phone, send them a quick text message, anything to get in touch and help spread the word that you can actually heal yourself on your own without a bunch of pill popping and other nonsense. And you really can take your health into your own hands and change your entire life. I've done it myself, and most of the people who have come on this show have done it as well. So if you want to share that with someone else, please go for it. All right, let's go hang out with Amy. All right, folks, we are here with Amy Clover of StrongInsideOut.com. And you might not know this about her, but she just told me that she actually held the high score on the Family Guy website 10 years ago in trivia. So she's a very important guest, lots to talk about today. But it's going to be, Amy, I'm really glad you're here. We're going to be talking about some pretty deep stuff that a lot of us go through, but I think have a lot of times a hard time letting go and getting out there, because these are deep, dark places that we all have that we normally don't play with. So let's do both sides of the equation. Let's do some fun stuff. Let's do some deep stuff. But before we do, why don't you tell folks a little bit about like where you came from, what Strong Inside Out is all about, and some of the demons that you've slayed in the past and the other ones that you're fighting now for other people.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm Amy Clover from Strong Inside Out, and I have a site that helps empower people out of struggle with the help of fitness and taking positive action. So the reason I came into that, I actually started it as just a fitness site, but realized that my about page was getting more traffic than any of my blog posts were. And actually, I shared my story not having told maybe more than 5 people what I had been through because I was so afraid to actually talk about it. There's so much stigma around it. But what happened was in high school, I was diagnosed with clinical depression and obsessive compulsive disorder. And that's a nasty mix when you're a teenager and your hormones are raging. But I refused to talk about it or acknowledge it. And I held it inside. And so I would lash out a lot at teachers and stuff. I was kind of the punk rock rebel kid.
Okay.
And everybody just thought I was a trouble kid.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to dig deeper. There were a couple teachers that really did want to ask and held me after class and said, "What's going on with you?" But it was very rare.
Yeah.
And so I held it inside until in my early 20s. It just got to be so much that I just didn't want to handle the pain anymore. I didn't want to deal with it because I was never told that I could fight against it. It was just my life sentence. So I actually tried to end it. And my roommate found me in the kitchen with a knife to my wrist. And she begged me to call for help. And I called a suicide prevention lifeline, and that saved my life. And they said, "Please, if you don't feel better in the morning, go to the hospital." And I did. And I didn't really know what to expect. But they hospitalized me against my will. And that was the most angry I've ever been in my entire life. Mm-hmm. And when I was held in there, I kind of realized this is what it feels like to really have no choice. This is what it feels like to have all of your will just stripped from you. So I decided while I was in there that I was at least going to try when I got out there because it was my life. At least I could dictate if I went down in flames fighting or just went down, without. So I tried, and it took me years to really, I was roller coastering up and down. I almost got back down to that point, but I kept fighting. I kept getting back up. And that's what Strong Inside Out is all about. When I finally found fitness, it all made sense. It all came into play, and I could hold on to those things that I was working on with my therapist a lot longer, and it was more consistent. So that's a lot of what I like to talk about on Strong Inside Out.
Cool. So I'm working on my book, The Wild Diet, right now, and I love that you're here because we can talk about some of this stuff. And it's so important. The thing that a lot of information in this space downplays is the mental game, the mental fight that we have every day between doing the right thing for our bodies, for our health, for our minds, for people around us, for everything, and doing the thing that won't help us reach our goals. And one of the coolest things, I've been deep into the history of dieting and where that came from, all the different diets that have been tried over the course of time, and also our understanding of physical education, physical culture as it is as it was called and is still in some circles. Basically, the idea that through exercise, you can actually prevent or cure almost any disease out there, especially when combined with nutrition. We've known this for hundreds of years, that let me just say that again, that we can cure or treat or prevent almost every disease out there, certainly the ones in modern civilization, through diet and or exercise. And so for you, a lot of people don't really talk about how much the exercise component isn't about burning calories or whatever, isn't about having huge guns or, showing off to your friends. It's about changing your brain in a really cool way that your brain needs. So can you talk about that? What is the mental thing that's going on, or what happened to you when you took up exercise the way you did?
Well, science-wise, it actually elevates brain-derived neurotrophic factor. I don't know if have you read Spark?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that book. I actually just emailed with John J. Rady, and I was like, cool. Oh my gosh, that was my nerd out.
Nerdgasm.
Totally nerdgasm. But that explains a lot of what the scientific facts behind what exercise actually does for stress and anxiety and depression and all of it, basically. Yeah. But as far as just kind of in the more tangible state is when you're actually pushing that much further in the gym and challenging yourself in the gym when you're used to not actually pushing yourself in real life to go to your discomfort. I believe you can train yourself in the gym for real life as well. So the stronger you get in there, the more you push in there, the more comfortable you're going to get with discomfort, which is really key to achieving those goals outside of the gym as well.
Yeah. And so there's kind of a cool argument going on because for a while there, we kind of understood it to be true that if you made something sanitized, or if you made something easy, or if you made it convenient, it's better. It's
Yep.
better for you. It's better for your body, better for your brain, whatever. Now we're starting to see that you really do need to like go through hard things in order for your brain to grow, in order for your body to grow, in order for you to kind of like exercise the willpower. And there's something about that moment, you know, and this happens even doing interviews. Like if you talk to someone who isn't used to public speaking or isn't used to being under the gun and, you know, speaking in front of thousands of people, then there's that moment between when that person asks the question in the last second, when it's released from their lips, and before you start speaking, that you have to decide, do I have this or do I not have this? Right?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
And so every single day there's that moment with like, can I lift this? Can I not lift this? You know, am I smart enough to calculate 15% tip on my bill right now in front of my friends or not? And so one of the coolest things about like exercise is that you're doing, if you're exercising, that's what you're doing every single day. And that's actually what you're exercising. It's your resolve. It's not your muscles. What do you think about that?
I love the way that you just said that, and the way that you really honed in on that one, that second. That's really huge. And it's just, you're really working that resilience. Like, how much can you stand? And that's something also that I talk about a lot, and a lot of what has to do with the Strong Inside Out tour is that struggle is something that we've shied away from for so long. It's something to be avoided, but I think it's something that we should really embrace.
Right.
It's something that we should use as a tool to get stronger.
Exactly.
And we should celebrate that.
Yeah. There's a great book, Anti-Fragile. Are you familiar with the concept?
No, but I love that name.
Yeah. So it's basically the idea that in times of uncertainty or being uncomfortable or struggle, the strongest ones don't just like survive that. That's when they thrive the most. And so if you look at economic systems, or if you look at biological systems, if you become the person who can thrive when everyone else is freaking out or not able to do it or overwhelmed or whatever, that's the thing that is basically the penultimate. If you can handle that, that's where you should play. And that's the actually the secret. A lot of people ask me about like how I grew so quickly with my own platform and with my own businesses and stuff like that. And that's really what it is. It's being able to take those ridiculous but very calculated risks, which is the same thing that you're doing if you're doing a deadlift, right?
Yes.
Because you're just like, is that 7 pounds too much? Or am I just like, because if you never quite get there, obviously you don't want to get injured. You don't want to push it too far, but like you almost want to push it too far. Can you talk about how you calculate that?
It's interesting because I'm all about risk taking, and I'm all about going to that discomfort, but you have to be smart about it at the same time. You can't just go like, oh, I've never deadlifted before, I think 500 pounds sounds good today.
Yeah.
Like you have to go into it and actually test out the waters a little bit, see how it's going to be. And just like if you were to say, leave your job, if that's something you want to get uncomfortable about, and it's something that you really want, or and say you really want to lift that 500 pounds, it's the same kind of thing. You have to be calculated about it. Is it going to be, you have to think of the aftermath at least a little bit, at least be prepared for it, and take actions to create that world that you want to land in after you leap. So you really do have to say, do I really want to explode my sacroiliac, or do I really want to just be cautious and work my way up there, but really do push my limits every single time. So
when do you know when you get there? This is a trick question, by the way.
I truly believe that you do not ever get there.
Yeah.
You're always pushing those limits. You're always growing. You're always getting stronger.
Yeah. Cool. So,
did I pass?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. I love it. That's something that I've said many times on this show. Actually, one of the first conversations I had with Mark Sisson was about that very subject. I'm just like, because he's a guy, he's 60 years old, has a ripped six pack, has a Maserati in the garage. Like, he's got it figured out. And it's just like, Mark, like, how did you figure it out? What does it feel like to be there? And like, you talk to him for a half a second and you know that he is not there. And he's just like, you never get there. That does not happen. And It's all about the day to day, those little moments that you have, but you never arrive. And that's kind of the cool part, because if you can learn to thrive in those moments and be totally present in them, then you start to see the world change all around you, because you go from basically being a victim of circumstance, the things that happen in your life, who what family you're born into, what town you're born into, which schools you went to, what job you got, all of that stuff. And then you start to celebrate the fact that, like, oh, I'm driving.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. And so no matter where you are.
Tell us about that for you. When you take us through, you were out of control and you literally had no say over what went on in your life. In that moment you told us about before, but then you found physical culture and something changed. Walk us through that.
It was actually by accident. So I joined a gym because I thought I needed to lose a few pounds. I was actually in acting at this time. Mm-hmm. And, the whole culture around the acting world, the Hollywood world, right, is if you're a size 2, you're big, and you need to work on that. So I was maybe like a size 4 at the time or something like that. And I was like, I just need to really lose weight. Mm-hmm. So it was funny because I don't know how much you're going to agree with this, but I would hop on the elliptical and fight through intervals. So that was my way that I actually found that this, aerobic caused brain explosion was happening with endorphins. Mm-hmm. And it was really lasting into my regular life as well. The more consistent I got, the more consistent I got with maybe 5 days a week of just 30 minutes to start was really helping me handle stress, be, more at ease throughout daily life and handle things, feel like I could really handle things.
Right.
So I stumbled upon it by accident. So if I stumbled upon that by accident, just think what other people who are in these depths of darkness can really do if they go into it with intention.
Yeah.
It can really change your life.
So if someone's listening to the show right now and they have someone they can think of who's in that bad spot, how do you help them connect with that, whether it's exercise or anything else, but how do you help them out of that?
There's one thing that I just always tell people to do, because I get that question quite a bit, and it's just get out, just get outside in some way, just move in some way. And just take that one step, because we all know that first step is the hardest. But if you just take that one step and start feeling the effects of actually going after it, of actually moving, then I bet you're going to want to do more. Even if you just commit to, I'm going to go outside for 5 minutes, I'm going to walk around the block once. That can be transformational. I mean, that can really lead into deadlifting 500 pounds,
right.
Whatever you want to do.
Yeah. And it's so wild because something as simple as a walk has been shown in many studies to be more effective than prescription medications that, companies have spent billions of dollars on and decades of research on. It's like that simple, right? Yeah. Like I was saying before, we already know enough. It's just, why don't we do it? So what's the breakdown there? Because everyone knows that exercise makes you feel better, right? Everyone knows that, like, if you eat well and you don't eat all those cookies, you're going to feel better. Why don't we all just make better decisions?
Because it's not a one-stop shop. It's not an immediate. It's not immediate, and it doesn't last as long as it would if you're consistent. So the thing about aerobic exercise has been proven to be more effective than Zoloft for treating depression when used consistently and for longer periods of time. However, if you just do one workout, it's not going to be as effective as Zoloft. So you do need to stick with it. And there's this, our ADD brains are kind of, a lot of us, I think, are just developing ADD as we get more technologically advanced.
That's true.
So I think it's just the will to stick with it and the knowledge that you're doing it for a bigger reason, your bigger why. And I'm all about finding your whys and really driving intention into your actions. And that's a huge one. You need to really remember why you're staying consistent.
Right. So with the people that you've had an effect on in the time that you've been doing this, like, tell us a story. How has this mindset made a change that someone else can see, in the real world?
Okay. So Well, just from sharing my story. So last year when I launched the 30 by 30 project campaign, um, I was really fortunate to have my good friend, Eric Kaufman, do my video for me, who also did, I'm not sure if you saw the Nike Spec commercial that I was in. It's on the front page of my site. But he did my video as well. And it spoke to a lot of people because, it was just my story in 3 minutes. And I got an email from somebody and it said, I'm currently in inpatient right now. And I didn't think there was any hope for me. I didn't think that there was going to be any way out. And I thought that this was all just something that was forced upon me. But after seeing your story and what you've done, I finally have hope again. And it's like,
Wow.
it's pretty amazing to hear that. But then also just the people who were in my group coaching program called the Phoenix Method, seeing them rise above their struggles and really get stronger and get that physical change as well. I'm sure you've seen it tons with the Wild Diet. You have actually, your success stories are just everywhere. But really seeing that change from the inside out is just amazing. It's happened a lot, not just with one story, but with many.
Yeah. So with that struggle, I want to get even deeper on this thing. What is that switch? Because it's like a switch, right? Like everyone has that little thing that put them over the edge and now I'm going to be different. And then they actually do it though.
Yeah.
Having seen people go through that, are there any strategies or tips or is there anything you can give to someone who's listening to help either get there or notice that they got there and make the right call?
It's something I've actually talked about before. I wrote an ebook on this. It's about how people often have to hit rock bottom before they decide that they need to make a change. But I don't think that is necessary.
Right.
It's that commitment in your brain. It's that step to really taking, to realizing that the life that you're living is not the one that you want to live. And so almost just kind of forcing yourself to come to that realization, but not in despair, not letting that overwhelm you, but letting it help you take that informed action to create that life that you want.
Yeah.
And so that is difficult and that does take a bit of work, but mindfulness is a huge part of that. Mindfulness in every part of your life, not just when you're working on that specifically.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's shift gears a little bit. And you're obviously very accomplished in this area. You know a lot about it. Could you tell, one of the questions I get a lot is from women about how women should exercise. Could you give us a primer on that?
Yes. Big weights won't make you big. Yay. That's it. So it depends because I come from a lot of the mindset of do what makes you happy, do what gets you active. So if that is going to Curves, go to Curves. If you love that community, if you love that that space, go there because that's what gets you active.
Right.
If you love CrossFit, go there, get into that community, do what makes you happy and move and just get out there in some form. But I mean, it depends on what goals you're talking about. So if your goals are to feel better, do whatever the heck it is that makes you feel better.
Right.
But if your goals are to say I really want to lean up or trim up, I definitely suggest I live by mainly the Wild Diet. I eat like that because it helps me feel more leveled out with emotionally. I point to my head in there. And it really does feed into better performance in my workouts. And that's huge for me because I really like to talk about eating like an athlete because all of us really are athletes and all of us who are going for those goals physically should eat to fuel that physical component. So I think nutrition has a lot to do with it. And then, but as far as training for women, it's you do have to be a little bit more careful about the high intensity stuff. I live by HIIT workouts. They're my thing. They're what I sell. They're what I do in my my tours. But women do not deal with ongoing HIIT workouts. If you were to do those, longer, heavier HIIT workouts multiple times a week. Our bodies don't deal with that quite the same way that men's bodies do. And we are more likely to break down almost emotionally, mentally. We don't handle it as well. So it's something to be cognizant of. And again, every single person is different. But aerobic exercise for us, I know that a lot of like CrossFitters out there are like, oh, I hate that. Don't get on the elliptical.
Right.
But actually, if it helps you, feel better, and it does give you something in between to keep you moving between those HIIT workouts, go for it.
Sure. Yeah. And it's not like it gets taken so far by the extremes, right? Like never get on a machine. But like, yeah, if you just want to get your heart going, and like the alternative between like sitting on the couch and not really doing anything and like hopping on an elliptical for 20 minutes or half an hour just to get rolling, or bicycle or anything else you have around, just doing some jumping jacks, that's great. Like do that, because almost none of us are getting the amount of movement and exercise and activity and stimulation and information that we used to get even 50 years ago, 100 years ago, certainly thousands of years ago. Like that's why I'm huge on exercising and even eating outside, because like your brain is being affected literally, and we can measure this by what the plants outside, what the trees outside are releasing. Like you're informed by all of these different stimuli, and it's really important to give yourself as much of that as you can. So I think exercise, unless you're already running ragged and you're a weekend warrior or whatever, you guys know who you are. I've been guilty of this from time to time. Like as long as you're not doing that, then pretty much any activity you can get is good. But so what about, do you have any like female specific advice around the mental game, around nutrition? We just covered exercise, or anything else that you want to offer?
Yeah, it's actually, since we're talking about nutrition and that kind of stuff, nutrition is really important. It's really hard for us. I know a lot of us listening to this show here have either, gotten ready for competitions or dieted at some point. And I know a lot of us do go low carb, and I'm interested to hear your mindset on this.
Yeah.
But going after low carb as a woman, you have to be very careful about going uber low carb. So I know the wild diet isn't necessarily low carb, because you do get those great vegetables. Sometimes you get those fruits. But I even add in gluten-free grains like brown rice or quinoa and those kinds of things.
Awesome.
Just to keep me a little bit happier. They're my happy foods.
Yeah, totally.
And I think they serve that way for a lot of women, especially when we're around that time. We don't have to go into depth on that.
Sure.
But just knowing that those are around, and you can still stick to a whole foods diet and not clog up your brain space by eating a little bit more carbs.
No, I think that's great. And I think because the right answer is always it depends, it's pretty easy to run away with any little piece of advice because it's probably incomplete, right?
Yep.
And so for the whole low carb thing, even that very concept, it's like, what does that mean, right? Is it low carb compared to 300 grams of simple carbs a day, like most of us are getting usually from sodas and other junk like that? Or does it mean less than 150? And is it net or total? And then you can get down to just like, well, is it ketogenic? And is it long-term ketogenic? And I think from a high level, where I stand is like the biggest things that you should avoid if you want to be healthy, and you want to keep fat off and you want to keep your brain running on all cylinders, stay away from sugar and stay away from most grains, not all grains. Like we definitely go for quinoa. We eat beans. We do a lot of totally non-paleo things. Like we've never been paleo. It's just paleo is a killer shorthand for saying like eat loads of veggies, lots of fruit, nuts, and meats and eggs as you want to until you're not hungry anymore. And that's just like an awesome thing that people kind of get and they can do it. But it's all about, living in that, the nether regions between the dogmatism and rubber meets the road is where it gets complicated. But to answer your question, I think you're doing it right. That's what works for you. Those are your happy foods. As long as your happy foods aren't like gallons of honey or, like really gross ice cream or fast foods or whatever, that's the whole thing. It's like, I'll never be able to tell anyone what their diet should be. And no one else can either. They do it all the time, but like you can't. You have to tell yourself what your ultimate diet is, because it's a moving target. It's like, as you just said, it changes by day, by hour, by second, by time of the month, by seasonality, where you're living, how bright it is outside, like all these things that are into it. So it's all about like learning to trust yourself, which is just coming full circle back to what you're all about. It's learning to trust the natural intelligence of your body, the strength of your brain, and really your willpower. And I think that it's so awesome that you're doing your work, because a lot of people don't really talk about that. They don't talk about how important that is to any. It doesn't matter how you define it, any sort of success you could ever have in life, whether it's getting yourself out of a crippling depression or building $1 billion business, it's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny that you bring that up too, because as far as willpower goes with the nutrition aspect of things. So I do things a little bit differently on my site, and you may or may not agree with this, but I suggest that people stick to real foods as much as humanly possible, whole foods, but that they live by something called the 90% principle, which is something that I'm precision nutrition, sports nutrition certified.
Yeah.
And I like live and breathe by John Berardi's advice.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's been on the show too. Love it.
Yeah, he's amazing. And it totally changed the way that I train, totally changed the way that I coach to do that program. But what I live by is the 90% principle, and 10% of the time, which if I'm eating, 5 meals a day or 4 meals a day, that's around like 3 meals per week, where I can go off plan and eat whatever the heck I want, because I love cookies.
Oh, totally.
I could live and breathe by cookies and ice cream. And there are those times where if I don't go for a long time, like a couple months ago, I was getting ready for a photo shoot, and I went for like 3 weeks without any opportunities, as I call them, or like off plan, meals.
Sure.
And right after my shoot, I went crazy. And that's just not healthy. No. Like, it's not healthy to just go crazy like that. And I felt horrible afterwards. And I know a lot of us out there do that. I know a lot of people who read Strong Inside Out have dealt with a lot of, eating disorders, whether that be, any kind of eating disorder, even binge eating disorder. And it's something that if you try to restrain yourself for so long and just tell yourself you don't need it for so long, it's like, just be relaxed about it. Yeah. Let yourself have it if you're really craving it. It just can't be an all the time thing. Yeah. Otherwise, it starts to affect your brain. And it will probably, the cleaner you get, it will start affecting your brain, even if you have a little bit. And maybe you'll choose at one point, it's not even worth it at that point. Yeah. So it's be relaxed about your nutrition. It doesn't have to be this or that. It doesn't have to be paleo or Atkins or any kinds of these things. It's go what makes you feel good and do that. Yeah. Just really, really pay attention to your body and your brain.
Yeah, totally. So, we finished Allison's birthday cake last night, and it was delicious. And I'm recording, I think, like 8 of these today. And once you know how your body works and you keep it clean, you can do that, and you deserve it. I mean, that's what this is all about. What's the point of going through all of this madness and exercising your discipline so hard if you can't ever celebrate for the rest of your life? Like, I want to be able to, and I in fact will have champagne, and chocolate cake and cheesecake and all these other like delicious things. Like, have those when you deserve them, but they're treats. And I think what we've gotten away from is just the common sense thing where like, you can't have cookies for breakfast. And you can't, and pancakes, donuts, sandwiches, like all those things, same deal. Like, you can't have those things very often. They're treats, they're pastries. We used to know this, and we've forgotten that. And I think food marketing has had a lot to do with that. Like literally, when you have marshmallow in your cereal that's supposed to be healthy for you, that's because it's full of vitamins and it's ridiculous. We all know that it's ridiculous. We just need to be honest with ourselves. But we're just about out of time, Amy. Why don't we tell folks before we go where they can find you and what you're looking forward to, like what you're working on now? My big piece of excitement right now is that I'm launching the Strong Inside Out tour. So last year we did the 30 by 30 project tour, which was basically to celebrate the 30th birthday that I almost didn't have, that I almost gave up.
I visited 30 cities across the US and Canada and taught my fitness class to raise awareness and funds for suicide prevention charity to write love on her arms. And now this year, we've gotten a lot more structured about how we're putting this all together. So what we're doing is we're visiting major cities across the US and possibly Canada this year, and we're doing bigger events. So these events are going to be whole wellness days, whole celebrations of life. We're even doing a weekend in some cities.
Cool.
Where you get tickets, and 50% of our proceeds goes to that suicide prevention charity to write love on her arms. And you sweat out the struggle with us. So a lot of what I do is intention driven, kind of mantra based HIIT workouts. So I'm going to push you to that point of struggle, but the whole time I'm not going to let you give up. I'm going to have you keep going by repeating, who are you fighting for? Who are you fighting for? And that answer should always be you. Yeah. So that's the whole theme about this year's Strong Inside Out tour. But we're raising money so we can actually do this. And so we can create an ongoing program. So we're not just leaving participants afterwards. We're having them stay accountable and stay moving with this track-based membership program. So we're trying to raise money for that on Indiegogo starting Friday, June 20th. And we could really use the help getting the word out and also raising funds for this year's tour.
Awesome. Well, Amy, thank you so much for coming on. What's the website one more time where people can find you?
StrongInsideOut.com.
Awesome. Amy, this was terrific. If you guys have comments about this show, please just go to fatburningman.com and check out the blog post with Amy Clover. Amy, it's been awesome having you here. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your work.
An honor, Abel. Thank you so much.
Before you go, don't forget to grab your listener discount on our 30-day fat loss plan. In this plan, we share 30 days of mouth-watering wild diet meal plans that are designed to help you drop fat with real food. The meal plans are paleo-friendly, easy to make, and literally the meals that my wife Allison and I eat just about every day and night to stay lean, fit, and happy. In the program, you'll get the most effective method of meal and nutrient timing to best stimulate fat loss and muscle recovery, the truth about how much protein you really need for your body type, 30 days of specific healthy fat-burning meal plans as a done-for-you nutrition strategy, and tons more. If you check it out today, you'll even get a listener discount. All you have to do is type in fatburningman.com/30 days. That's the number 30, DAYS. Once again, that's fatburningman.com/30 days. I'll see you there. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Fat Burning Man. If you liked it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, the podcast app, or wherever else you might be listening to or watching this show. Got a second? Please leave me a quick review on iTunes. I always love hearing from you, and if you think someone else might like and benefit from this free show, please take a second to share it with a friend or with a family member. You can get in touch with me on Twitter at FatBurnMan and Facebook by typing in Abel James or Fat Burning Man. Drop me a line anytime. Did you know that I've recorded over 150 episodes of Fat Burning Man, winning 4 awards in independent media and hitting #1 in more than 8 countries? And here's some more good news. You can download and listen to every single episode for free. All you have to do is type in fatburningman.com. I'll give you a second to type it in, fatburningman.com. And you'll get all the show notes in video and audio versions for all the past episodes of Fat Burning Man. Better yet, enter your best email at fatburningman.com, sign up for my newsletter, and I'll even send you a quick start guide to start burning fat right now and a few of our ridiculously tasty recipes as a special thanks for signing up. Once again, just go to fatburningman.com right now, enter your best email to get your free fat burning download straight to your inbox, and make sure that you never miss a show again. This is Abel James signing off. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great week.